Oh, it's Chasing Green Arrows time. We're back. It's Monday night. You guys are the awesome chasers in the chat and on catch up. Hello, team. And I'm joined by regular co-host, Mr. Big Man Bakar. But first, Mr. Dean Jones. Dean, how are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. Hopefully you've got me on a good connection here. I've just had to restart my my laptop because it was lagging a bit, but I think that's probably solved the issue. Good evening, good morning, depending on where you are. I'm obviously a good morning person right now. I'm actually 6 hours into my day. It's only 11 a.m. I was up at 5 a.m. doing a Ranks FC podcast and doing a little bit of transfer stuff. But I'm excited about this one, lads. The FPL routine needs to start upping now. Notice I'm checking the app a bit more often. Notice I'm checking other team news a bit more. I've got another video to record straight after this, which I'm looking forward to for these pre-records that we're doing. Yeah, life's good, mate.
Nice. Glad to hear it. And yeah, FPL kicks off in around, 11 days' time? Big Man, how are you doing? How's drafting going?
Hi, Gianni. Hi, Dean. Thanks for having me. Hello and welcome to all the listeners and viewers. Drafting's going well. I sort of feel fairly content with, let's say, 10 or 11 of my picks. I'm just feel like I'm going to be playing around with the rest of my selections till the umpteenth hour, really, before the deadline. But I feel relatively comfortable with where I'm at. I sort of know which players I'm definitely picking, and that's sort of helping. The only thing that can sort of throw a spanner in the works is if there's an unexpected transfer which could happen. For example, we're hearing that Gehi, for example, could go to Newcastle. Alvarez might leave Man City. All these kind of things, they might sort of change a few of our strategies, and rightly so. But yes, I think the best way is just to sort of wait and watch and see where we go from here.
Yeah, okay. I think I'm with you there. I'm probably locked in on a similar number, around 10. Well, when we show you our teams later, we'll go through the ones that we feel fairly locked on and the ones that we're kind of unsure about. Dean, I've got a couple of transfer questions for you before we see our teams. FPL Meerkat is in the chat. FPL Meerkat, I've just used your awesome talisman theory chart to record a pre-recorded video for Chasing Green Arrows. So that will be out later in the week. If you want to know more about the talisman theory and what percentage a single player contributes to their team's goals, the likes of Ollie Watkins, 49%, Cole Palmer, 48%. But there's teams out there with a player that might perform right at the top. Their best player might contribute 26, 27, 28%. It's an interesting one to look at when we're making our FPL choices. Dean, transfers. Are we going to see any big ones that massively affect FPL? Like someone like Gehi to Newcastle, yeah, that's a good one. But what about, for me, the big one that could really ruin my team is Anthony Gordon to Liverpool, because Gordon's been in every team I've had. But if he moves, or if we think he's going to move, I probably don't want him.
Well, I don't think he'll go before the start of the season would be my hunch. I reckon Gordon might be one of those storylines that is like last few days of the window, like revs back up. I think it's interesting that Newcastle was suddenly in this situation, a predicament where they needed money, and in almost a panic, like started to contemplate selling Gordon, and then Liverpool show the interest, and Gordon's head is turned, and his head is still turned. I didn't realise that Anthony Gordon was a childhood Liverpool fan.
Yeah.
Seeing as he was at Everton, I didn't really even contemplate that. But yeah, he was a Liverpool fan. Obviously, the potential to go and play for Liverpool is something that most people would find difficult. I don't completely understand why Liverpool need Anthony Gordon. I don't know who's leaving. I do wonder, Luis Diaz was obviously linked with Barcelona. I wonder if there's something around that still lingering. So there's potential there. I think you're probably good for Gordon on the opening game week, though. And it might even be a positive, because if he goes and has a blinder, maybe Liverpool are even more interested in signing him. So might be one that you need to monitor right up to kickoff, see what his state of mind seems to be, see how Eddie Howe's talking about him. Yeah, I mean, Mark Gehi's an interesting transfer. I don't know how appealing he is. He's obviously holds decent value in terms of price tag, but I don't know what his returns are going to be like in this game. So, yeah, we have to wait and see. In terms of other ones that I think could be interesting, I mean, if Chelsea were to sign a Meridian from Atleti, I think Chelsea would actually find themselves with half decent striker finally, mate. So I still think it's not what you need. I still think that you'd be better off going and getting Osimhen. I understand he's a lot more expensive and it's more difficult, but it's Chelsea. Like, that's where you should be shopping. You shouldn't be constantly shopping for 20-year-olds who might be great, and that's what you're still continuing to do. And Meridian wasn't even in Atleti's team, so I think he is a good. I'm not going to be as harsh on this one because I do think he's a good player. Wayne says Fulkrug in the chat. We'll see what value he comes in at for West Ham in this game. Guaranteed to be starting, right? Good pedigree in the game.
Yeah, he'll be a nuisance. The Premier League looks like it suited to his style of game, and in the Euros, every time he came on, he was it was a handful. Yeah. But West Ham, maybe under, I don't know, the manager, I'm a bit reserved on their attack. But okay, Dean, I'm going to come back to you on Solanke in a sec. But big man, let me just get your take on Solanke, because that's the other big one, I guess, for FPL. Like, we love Solanke, but we also love the Spurs attack, don't we? Like, we like the idea of backing a Postecoglou striker. If Solanke goes to Spurs, he's going to be in everyone's game week 1 team, isn't he? Or if he goes, I guess, later in the window. But would you make that move, Bakar? And then, Dean, how likely is that move likely to actually happen? So let's get your take first, big man.
I think I would, but I don't think it's going to go through before game week 1. So my assumption would be that even if I'm sort of making that transfer, it would be after the game week 1 deadline, maybe in game week 3 or 4, or at any point when Spurs have a good run of fixtures. But yeah, long story short, Solanke, it's Spurs 7.5 million potentially on penalties. Could be gold. I have no doubts about it. I think Dean will sort of reflect on this further, telling us the exact ramifications of when this is likely to happen.
Yeah, Dean? Oh, you're on mute, but Spurs and a new striker, Solanke or anyone else?
Sorry, yeah. So the issue that Tottenham have got with signing a striker, particularly at the value of Solanke, is that they've still got Richarlison, and he was supposed to be moved on. And for Tottenham to go and spend 65 million on Solanke is pretty significant. It wasn't really what they were expecting or planning to do. I've got reservations about it because of the pricing and because of how much Bournemouth will want of that up front. That's what I see as kind of being the big barrier to that. But obviously, like, it would change FPL if they were to get in a striker like that. So let's wait and see. I know that Solanke's not like pushing for a transfer, but obviously he's going to be keen for a step up like that. So let's see how it can come around. I personally, my hunch is that it will be extremely difficult to pull off because of how highly Bournemouth have put him into the market. And I think that Tottenham at the moment seem to be veering towards going another route and signing like a creative, more supporting attacker rather than a number 9.
Cheaper. Daniel Levy won't be. Well, Kulusevski, guys, has been playing number 9 for Spurs, and we're going to see our team reveals in like 5 minutes' time. He's not yet in, but he's massively on my mind. I think I'll probably, if I'm totally honest, end up with Kulusevski in my team. Even if it's for the first couple of game weeks, they go away to Leicester, home to Everton in the first 2. I am backing Spurs to score goals. Son is in my team. I think I'll end up with double Spurs attack. FPL Chai is in the chat. Chai, let us know what your thoughts there are. Big Spurs fan is FPL Chai. But we know they started the season well. And what's really important about Spurs for me, you look at the core team, none of them, well, you look at the core team, not many of them have had a busy summer. Like Maddison, summer off. Basuma, summer off. Brennan Johnson, summer off. Son, summer off. Kulusevski, summer off. Like these, how many of the top teams can say that? None, other than Spurs. And I think it makes a difference. Of course, you can pick out a Romero who's busy with like whatever. Vicario was away with Italy. Pedro Porro, summer off. So yeah, there's a few big names there. Bakar, you don't have Spurs attack covered in your team yet. I'm probably going to end up with double up. Does that concern you a little
I
bit?
have Pedro Porro. That counts.
Oh, fair. That to be fair,
very,
that is
very,
Spurs attack.
yeah, very much like Trent does when I don't have any Liverpool attack. I'm just gonna sort of take solace in the fact that I have Trent. Trent's gonna get me, a handful of attacking returns. But yeah, I mean, I'll have Porro. I'll have Trent. I don't think I'll have Liverpool attack unless maybe Jota sort of puts his hand up. I don't think it's gonna happen, but maybe depending on how the friendlies go. But yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna get Kulusevski because of the Solanke links, and I mean, Brennan is someone who does sort of interest me. I don't hate the idea for Brennan, but when Nkunku's around, I'm sort of finding it hard to justify him. But Brennan is one I'm still considering in my draft. I don't think I'm going to go Son. I like Son as a pick, but I just think I prefer Saka over him. I have since day one, and I don't think that's going to change. And yeah, I think that's about it for the Spurs attack.
Yeah, you're definitely going. Saka over Son couldn't be more big man is X, Gianni is Y conversation. There's no right and wrong answer here, but Bakar will end up with Saka. I can bet my mortgage on it, and I'll end up with Son. Dean, Spurs attack.
Well, I've already got Son. I've been nailed on him for a while, haven't I? And I'm sticking with him. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I set out with the right team, and everybody's now coming around to it and copying it, so that's fine. You'll see my team in a minute when we prop it up, and there is a player in there that you'll see who could yet get swapped out for Kulusevski, depending on how the next 10 days go. But we'll talk about that once you show it, because I think it's interesting to debate that player.
Nice. Okay, guys, there's only a handful of you that have hit those buttons so far, and I know there are 57 of you watching that are not subscribed. If half of you just hit that subscribe button, that would be amazing. If we can get to 8k subs tonight, we would all be over the moon. I think that leaves us with about 80 subs to get tonight. So probably unlikely, but let's see if we can hit those buttons, guys. Obviously, liking as well helps the algorithm and all that jazz.
Yeah.
Any other major talking points before we see our teams? Can we just touch on Liverpool before we see teams? Because Jota, like Kulusevski, has been playing up front, but that's because Darwin and Luis Diaz and Gakpo all returned to training today. We're recording this on Monday. The players that returned to training today, and I'm not just talking about Liverpool here, I talk about Anthony Gordon at Newcastle, and Palmer at Chelsea, and Foden at Man City. Some of them will start game week 1. Saka, guarantee starts game week 1. Arteta will flog him. But others, they'll be eased back in and they'll get half an hour. Game week 2, they'll get 60 minutes. Game week 3, they'll start. There'll be a different trajectory for different players. What do we make of the Liverpool attack and players like Darwin and Gakpo? Do they come and start game week 1? It's hard to tell because they've still got one more friendly. But Dean, what's your take? Because Jota is a couple of weeks ahead of them all in terms of his training schedule. He's been back with the squad 2 weeks. He's played a 45 and a 60, I think. And I think Jota, yes, like Kulusevski, is a transfer out waiting to happen. But that's fine if he gets me big points in game week 1 and 2. Kulu will do that, and I think Jota could, and I'm keen on both of those players.
Yeah, I think you can trust Jota to be in there. I'd say that the ones that might drop will be on the fringe would be like Carvalho's and Elliott's. Those type of players are more at risk. And this is the problem when you watch the early stages of pre-season and they go on these tours and you're like, oh, Elliott's been great. Carvalho's doing well. Curtis Jones is doing really well. And then suddenly all the star names come back in and you're like, oh yeah, they've got Alexis McAllister who's just returned and Cody Gakpo's standing there and Darwin Núñez is suddenly strutting about the place. You're like, oh yeah, none of them are actually going to play because they're not as good as these guys. And for Slot, it's obviously extremely important to start this season well because you have to consider that Liverpool have to push for the title. Like they have to set out with that ambition. And you can't afford to lose pace with the big guns too early on. So what Slot's got to decide here is, does he go with the trust he's started to build in these players in the last 3 weeks? Or does he start to lean on those players that have got the international experience and are his big gun? You're not going to be leaving Alexis McAllister out, players like that, are you? So it's difficult. I'd say like the next week, we need to be really keeping an eye on Liverpool to listen carefully to his words in terms of who's going to be playing. But I think Jota is a reasonably safe bet because I think he ticks the box of being in pre-season plans and also having the experience that he needs for those early weeks.
Yeah, Bakar, what's your take on that Liverpool attack? Because he's a transfer out waiting to happen, but he could very easily score big against Ipswich away, and I think it's Brentford at home.
I think if I had some sort of guarantee over his minutes, I'd be sort of happy to go there, especially if I committed to an early wild card. Now, what's
Yeah.
important here is that let's say if someone wants to commit to a game week 4 or game week 6 wild card, because I see a few people who are sort of looking at drafting their game week 1 team with the view of wild carding in game week 6 because of the fixture swings. In that case, the first 5 fixtures for Liverpool are really, really nice, and then you can sort of take that risk with the Liverpool player. But if you're sort of looking at a more long-term view of things, then it becomes a bit sketchy. So that's why I'm not as hot on the Liverpool attack. I do think they'll score plenty of goals, to be very honest. I'm just not sure which of Diaz, Darwin, Jota, Salah, or whichever player they might even sign will get the most contributions. I mean, Salah's obviously going to get the most minutes, but apart from him, I'm just not sure which player is going to get the most contributions. It's really sort of you're just firing shots in the dark and guessing, really.
I do think that Elliott currently looks really good value for that opening game of the season. I think at 5.5 million, the contributions that he's made during pre-season, the levels he was already starting to hit last year, the growth in stature that he should be having at this stage of his career. I have tinkered with the idea of having Harvey Elliott in my team. At the moment, I haven't got a Liverpool player in my squad, and that feels like a massive oversight. And I'm trying to figure out the best way to get somebody in. And honestly, looking at Elliott's contributions, I think he's the guy. British says Elliott's on his watch list. RTJ says, yeah, Elliott, good value. Max says Elliott 100% going to start and get a return game week 1 against Ipswich. Yeah, I definitely think that he's somebody that is not getting the attention he deserves. He's 1.8% selected at the moment, and that seems crazy, really, when you consider what he's done so far. And the Slot has to have been impressed by what he's seen.
Is assists galore pre-season. My big thing is there's only going to be one number 10 in the team, and is that Elliott? Or is it Szoboszlai playing slightly higher up? Now, we've seen Szoboszlai playing number 10 alongside Elliott because there was no 9 in that friendly. But we've also then seen Szoboszlai slightly deeper. And what Liverpool, I think, might struggle with under Slot is to have that midfield sort of commander, because the way he wants to play, I don't know if Endo's going to be that guy, and I don't know if McAllister's going to be that guy. So does that force Szoboszlai back deeper, despite all the reports saying he's going to be further forward under Slot? There's only so many attacking players that can get in the 11 under Slot, and there'll be so many good players on the bench. I have a feeling it could be Szoboszlai deeper, Elliott as the 10, and therefore he's phenomenal value. But could Jota take that role too? When Darwin's back, could it be Darwin Jota together up front, or Jota Gakpo? It's so difficult. But game week 1, the rewards are there for both Elliott and Jota for me. I think both will end up starting game week 1. And then if they play well, they keep their spot. So it's such a lottery, but it's risk reward this game. And sometimes we've got to go punty. Maliki, thank you so much for your super chat. Darwin, 8% ownership. He returned to training today, Maliki. Like, yeah, fair point. He could be an impact sub game week 1. Does he start game week 1? When we see these guys coming back from their summer breaks in pre-season on the US tours, they often don't play more than 45 minutes like the first game back. Now, Darwin could feature, of course, in 5-6 days' time when Liverpool are friendly, but I'm just wary on those that reported back only today when the season starts in like 12 days for these guys. It just might come one game too soon.
Yeah, I like this question that's coming from Michael. Can you discuss Oscar Bob versus Amad Diallo as short-term options? Honestly, like one of these guys, you don't obviously don't want both. You don't want both of these in your team, definitely not. But I can see why you would be contemplating bringing one of them, given their price points and the fixtures and the role they would be playing within their teams. At the moment, obviously Diallo's been great for United. I obviously went to the Man United game last week against Betis, and Diallo was the best player on the pitch. He was direct. His defensive work was really good as well, which I think is important for Ten Hag. Obviously, Garnacho's coming back. So that's the difficulty I have with Diallo at the moment, is I don't know he's definitely going to play, because if Garnacho's ready, then you're going to play Garnacho. But Bob, let's see what happens in the Community Shield at the weekend. Bob's going to be extremely difficult to leave out, I think, in the first couple of game weeks. He's playing really well. He's got that Cole Palmer vibe about him. Like, I'm ready. I'm ready. Do not leave me out. And Man City, they can't get rid of him. Can't let him go and join Chelsea. So
Give us time.
I think I would go Bob over Diallo at the moment. But obviously
100%.
both of them will be playing at the weekend. So let's gauge it on that.
Bakar, what's your take on Bob? Like, I'm so hot on him. Like, I genuinely think there's a chance he ends up in my team. Because of my structure, I'm not sure he does. But for me, the risky midfield picks of Kulusevski, Jota, Bob, I'm going to include Martinelli there too. I know that's left field. I reckon I'll end up with 2 of those 4. Like, I'm going fairly risky on midfield picks.
Yeah, Oscar Bob is someone I like, to be very honest. And if Alvarez does end up leaving, I think there's even more of a case for him. I don't mind him at all. Ahmad, I think, will start in game week 1 simply because Garnacho's not had much of game time recently, and I think he'll be eased back in. And then it'll basically be performance dependent. So he's more of a he's actually safe for game week 1, but then he becomes more of a risk. Bob should start the season as well, but then if Alvarez isn't there, I think he's sort of similar. But the thing is that I think if I'm picking someone at 5 million, maybe Rodgers is safest for minutes right now. He maybe isn't in the same league as, let's say, Ahmad or Bob in terms of upside, but like he's still a decent pick in terms of expected minutes, I would have thought, even though he's sketchy as well. But like I think that Bob and Ahmad are on a different level of sketchiness when it comes to expected minutes, to be very honest.
Yeah, but think of the goals. How many goals does City score? Loads.
That's fine, but
Bob combines.
Yeah, but you need to be on the pitch to score those goals. I mean, it doesn't matter as long as he's not on the pitch.
Maybe. Off-core, thanks for your money, by the way. Thanks for the shout out on the sub share. Hit the bell, says Off-core for a £5. Abby says Robinson and Mikolenko are the 2 best 4.5s.
There's a lot of good
opinion, isn't it? I mean, it's all guesswork at this stage. We honestly we don't know. We can have our own reasonings as to why.
I think I'd actually like to answer this question. I think the best 4.5 is actually the player who sort of works best in your rotation. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer here. For example, if you have, let's say, Porro. Now, Porro has a tough fixture in game week 3 and 4. He's playing away to Newcastle in 3, and then, if I'm not mistaken, he's playing against Arsenal in game week 4. No. So those are fixtures you'd actually want to cover for. And if you sort of look at the rotation ticker, Aston Villa are playing Leicester, and they're playing Everton at home in game week 3 and 4. So the best rotation is simply the one which you need in your team. I don't think there's a clear-cut 4.5 must-have option at the minute. If Gehi goes to Newcastle, then I think he will become the template defender of choice at 4.5 million. But as of now, I don't think there's a clear-cut defender, and it depends on when you need to play him.
But even if he doesn't, Lewis Hall at 4.5 in the same team with more upside than Gehi, some might argue, feels nailed at left back, playing really well pre-season. There's also good 4.5 options, Abby. Look at Forest if the rotation works for you. As Bakar said, obviously Villa, but I also like the look of Palace. Like, even if Gehi leaves, I still think Palace will be a fairly good defence. Michael says, has Hall nailed his place? He has at the time being, but look, Dan Burn's a favourite. He can go out and play left back. But end of last season, Lewis Hall was starting. Pre-season, he's played most games, and I think he'll start left back. And most Newcastle fans will agree with me there. Conza isn't one for me, but it doesn't work with my team. Guys, thank you for all your questions. We're going to do one more question, then I think we're going to show the team. So, thoughts on Greaves as a 4.0? I'll answer this one really quickly. Guys, if you want a 4.0 defender, go to Brighton. You get a fullback with upside. I know he's had a bit of a knock. He's in training, I think back training in a couple of days' time. He's been on corners. Barco is the best 4.0 defender by a country mile. Guys, 372 of you watching. I don't think we've hit 100 likes. So if you can do us a favor and hit the buttons. What's really important to us though is that we can finally hopefully get towards 8k subs. That would be amazing. We want to do that this pre-season. If you're watching on catch up, hit the button. If you're watching live, do hit the subscribe button, always with the notification bell. Thank you guys. Wayne says Barco's not nailed. He's nailed if he's fit, and then a Estupiñán will come back and he can lose his place. That's fine. But we're talking about a lot of teams early wildcarding. Estupiñán might not be back till game week 5, 6, 7, or 8. We'll worry about that when that comes. Barco might have played so well that he's in the team. Personally, I just think it's a no-brainer. You go for the 4 million upside. Let's not forget, 4 million defenders are probably not in your 11. It doesn't matter too much. Yeah, we'll come to Fulkrug later, I think, when we've got his FPL price point. Let's get to our teams. I know that's what you're all waiting for. And thank you for waiting so patiently, guys. Whose team are we showing first? We got the old Walton Rifles, who have now been bought by a
new
Californian
franchise.
consortium.
Yeah, we franchised out here. We sold out. We've moved to San Diego from Surrey in England. The lads seem happier with the warm weather. I think that's been the problem for the last 10 years with my team. They've all just not enjoyed the climate of living in England. So we've moved them out to California, and here they are. So first of all, the player that I was talking about in terms of my midfield that could change for somebody like Kulusevski is Bruno Fernandes.
Mm-hmm.
At the moment, obviously, we don't have anything to go on with Bruno in pre-season. He's had time off on the back of the summer and stuff. But he's the captain. He's pretty much the talisman for the team. Might end up playing false nine. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but like Ten Hag has hinted at that the other day, that could be an option with Man United's lack of options up front. But you talk about players coming back in late after the summer, will they play? Bruno Fernandes will play. United can't afford to not play Bruno Fernandes, I don't think. Unless they've got a niggle, he will play. So I just need to kind of leave that one a little bit. I imagine he'll figure in the Community Shield at the weekend, so I'll judge him. I'll judge him on that. Odegaard is kind of a placeholder at the moment. I'm not certain I pick him, but yeah, I need somebody of that ballpark figure. Son's staying. Gibbs White, I'm becoming increasingly convinced is an underrated pick. I think when you look at the depth of Nottingham Forest's pre-season plans, and actually I'm going to do the video on this later today. I'm going to have more insight on Nottingham Forest, so look out for that later in the week. But Gibbs White, watch out. I think that this could be a massive season for him in which he takes his game to new levels and probably ends up earning himself a transfer as well if things go well. There's already been big clubs, including Newcastle, keeping an eye on Gibbs White. Haaland, I've had him in since the day the game was launched. He's staying. He's captain. He's got another hat-trick incoming against Chelsea on the opening day. Isak, stay is no-brainer. Muniz has moved into my plans.
Oh, talk to us. Talk to us about Muniz.
Exactly. On the previous stream,
and Bakar are keen.
Yeah. Exactly. On the previous stream, me and Gianni were actually discussing this, and we were thinking what your opinion of Muniz would be, and from memory, we recall that you've never owned Muniz and you've never really sort of been a huge fan of him from an FPL point of view.
Never.
So it's actually surprising to us to see that he sort of ended up in your team. So please do the honors and let us know why that is the case.
I want minutes as well, Dean. Like, what are the chances of early subs? Because that's the only thing that concerns me.
Well, for Muniz, he won't be subbed, I don't think.
No?
So there's no rotator for Muniz at the moment. Like there's nobody else that can play the number 9.
Oh, is Jimenez not around?
Well, yeah, there is Jimenez, I guess, but I mean, sorry, that's really harsh around him. And he actually did all right the other day as well, Raul. But he's not going to be like Muniz has got the 9 shirt for a reason. And I spoke to someone the other day. They're like, yeah.
But Muniz, you'd expect him to get subbed around the 75-minute mark, if I'm not mistaken.
That's fine. Like, I don't. I
Is
can't.
it?
I can't.
Is it though?
Why is it not?
Because you'd ideally want players who are playing for 90 minutes. I mean,
if we go Adam Armstrong, we're probably getting a 90-minute man. If it goes
basically for 0.5 less.
90 minutes.
Adam
If it's
Armstrong.
1-0 and Fulham are winning, Muniz probably stays on the pitch. If things are going well, does he come off? And if they're chasing, he definitely doesn't come off.
Look, the reason I've picked Muniz is because I've watched Man United so closely during pre-season, and actually a lot of the stuff that's been going on at United, I've been very optimistic about. But the defence is as frail as ever. I watched Onana closely when he played against Liverpool the other day. It was very close to being one of his clown games. It was very close to that at times, and it was funny because the game I watched, actually, Tom Heaton was in goal. I don't know if you saw the Betis game, but Tom Heaton was actually in goal for Man United. He didn't play very well. So, yeah, I'm not overly convinced about Onana, but more of a problem with Onana is the fact that Euro is out. De Ligt hasn't come in yet. What are we getting from Man United's back line? And it's so fragile. And Fulham are going to play on that. Also, Casemiro at the weekend plays 90 minutes and was captain of Man United at the weekend, right? Like, what is going on there? How's Casemiro still getting that sort of role at this stage of pre-season? He's going to be playing in that game as it stands in the first day of the season. And I think Fulham will eat it up, to be honest with you. Unless United can hurry through a deal for Ugarte, which I do think would start to change my thinking here. And Muniz potentially won't come into my plans if that happens. At the moment, I see Man United as still being in transition for what they're trying to do this summer. And I don't think it'll all be in place by the time they play that first match against Fulham. I think Smith Rowe coming in, Pereira having some competition for place. Dama Traore's done really well in pre-season. Fulham are looking really sharp at the moment. And I want a pathway into that attack. Smith Rowe might end up being the best pick because he's 5.5 and he'll probably end up on set pieces and things like that. I don't know exactly what his positioning is going to be yet. Same with Andreas. I don't know. Those two seem reasonably similar to me in terms of what they would bring to a team. I don't know how they fit in. So I look at it, I'm like, well, Muniz starts. So Muniz is their opening day of the season against a Man United team that probably will concede. And that's why I'm going for him. I've also, obviously just being a Fulham fan and watching the content that the club are putting out over the summer. And Muniz he might be the happiest man alive. He's got the number 9 shirt. Every single video, he's just dancing with people. He's so happy with what he's built for himself. And I want him to do well. Obviously, I am slightly unconvinced about whether he's the real deal. But to convince Marco Silva to give him the number 9 shirt, he's got to have something about him. He's still young. And I just fancy, as it stands right now, that Fulham can go to Man United and get a result on the opening day. So he's my placeholder for right now. And that's all I've got for you, I think.
Bakar, what's your take? Because he doesn't come with penalty appeal. We thought he might do, but in a pre-season friendly the other day, Lukic took the pen that Muniz actually won. So Muniz was on the pitch and Lukic took the pen. I mean, that doesn't mean 100% he's not going to be on pens. He's probably not.
Yeah, it seems unlikely.
But does that matter? I mean, we love the fixtures, right? Because we're saying Man United, great. I mean, if I own Muniz, I have a chance he'll be on my bench for Man United, which I don't like doing, but Leicester then after that, and then Ipswich. It's a great set of 3 fixtures.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I like the Muniz punt for sure. I think it's a punt, but at 75 minutes with no pens. Ideally, I'd like to go with 90-minute players with pens, but I think it's all right, especially because the fixtures are actually so good and the price as well, right? So I'm not against the punt, to be very honest. The thing is, I'm all over the Fulham fixtures, but I'm still sort of finding it difficult to figure out who the right guy to pick from the Fulham attack is. I'll keep a keen eye on their friendlies, which are left. I still think it might be Andreas. I mean, spoiler alert, I still have Andreas in my team.
I don't know, man. I've got a feeling Andreas might leave is the problem as well. And I think Andreas is a really tough one. I mean, we played Benfica at the weekend. I think Andreas got 20 minutes. There's been a lot of talk around a transfer. Marseille have been linked recently. Aston Villa have had a look. Chelsea have been linked. There's been a link to him going back to Brazil. It sounds to me like an agent at work. And so I'm intrigued, to be honest, about how that actually fits. Let me just search for something quickly because Fulham are playing tonight. And I just want to see what our lineup here. Okay, so Andreas is starting tonight. And interestingly, Raul Jimenez is starting instead of Muniz. So let's keep an eye on this friendly. Ryan Sessegnon's in the team too, who we haven't talked about at all. Look, Sessegnon, love him, obviously. Fulham boy, left us, was distraught, went to Tottenham. I was like, can't believe you've done this to us just as we're going up. But Sessegnon, Yeah, he's got a real good feel factor to him at the moment. But Fulham, yeah, they've gone for a bit of this looks like a mix and match team that we're starting with tonight. There's like four or five players that I wouldn't expect to be in the lineup. So they're clearly
It's not like,
experimenting a little. Yeah,
it's
they
not like one of those
experimented a bit.
lineups where you go, oh, that's their game week 1 team, which a lot of clubs are doing with a
No,
game or two. Oh,
yeah,
Chai, don't get us started on Sessegnon. Come on, we don't want Fulham defender chat as well.
yeah. I don't even see what Sessegnon's listed as. If he's a midfielder or an
Right.
attacker or what in this game, because
4.5 defender, but I mean, he could play out wide.
mate, Sessegnon, yeah, I
He's a
mean,
winger.
he'd be playing. Well, he played for us before. Like, he was best as a left winger. It looks here, just quickly glancing at this lineup, like he might be playing left back because Robinson's on the bench. But yeah, this game starts actually in like 15 minutes. So if you can grab a stream of this, people, then I actually recommend you keep an eye on it, just because of players like Andreas and Sessegnon. And when they come on in the second half, you'll see perhaps what Muniz.
Is Smith Rowe starting as well?
Smith Rowe's on the bench as well. So this game probably becomes actually a bit more interesting after the hour mark, when all our actual players come onto the pitch. So yeah, that'll be interesting. It's against Sevilla, so it's quite a decent game to be testing out. Smith Rowe, I mean, could be great, couldn't it? It could be great. What a player for Fulham to land. Yeah, low key, we could be good. We'll have to wait and see. As you can see, I've got Ahmed Diallo on my bench as well at the moment. So again, that's one to watch out for. If it's not Ahmed, I have to say, like, Rashford is in the back of my mind. I know it's not the same price point, but if I was to say drop out Bruno and Ahmed, and I might be tempted to stick in Rashford, because what's going to happen with United playing the false nine, which they're going to be forced to, like, Xerxes isn't the same forward as Højlund, so they change the game depending on who's playing.
Yeah, the wingers benefit if Xerxes plays, don't they?
Absolutely. And if it's Xerxes, if it's Sancho, if it's Bruno playing through the middle, their whole job basically is to open up gaps for Rashford to exploit. And I think he'll be arriving in good positions. So I think that Marcus Rashford might also be a good pick for the beginning of the season.
I like Xerxes. I like Bruno for Xerxes as well. I just think the way he drops deep, I think Bruno will actually go beyond him quite a lot for kind of crashing into the box. Guys, there's 500 of you watching. Thank you for joining. I can see over 100 new viewers right now that have never watched Chasing Green Arrows. So do subscribe if you're new around here. Thank you, guys.
Welcome aboard.
I would like to personally request everyone who hasn't liked the video to like the video and to subscribe to the channel. It would mean a lot to us. We've been creating a lot of content in preseason, so any support is massively appreciated.
Well said, Bakar. Well said. It is worth noting, Fulham, just final note, they do play on Saturday against Hoffenheim as well. So that's the friendly where we're going to really be looking at that starting 11.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, for most teams, they will play the week before the Prem. So yes, we have the Community Shield between the Manchester clubs on Sunday, but pretty much most Premier League teams will be playing on either Saturday or Sunday, 7-8 days before their first fixture. The starting 11s for most teams will be very close to the starting 11 game week 1. Some managers go different, sure, but the vast majority will kind of go with their game week 1 team. So maybe not all 11, but certainly look into those lineups. They are so important for that last friendly. Bakar, let's see your team. I'm intrigued to see it. And yeah, Dean, in terms of reviewing yours, I think Bruno's a fantastic pick that no one's got, by the way. So this is, yeah. So you've also got Bruno. Here we go. So you always said you might get Bruno, and here you are.
Yeah, I've had him since my first draft. I think he's a fantastic pick at 8.5. He's projected to have plenty of goal moments, and you're right. I think this system that United will play in the first day will probably help Bruno push beyond the forward. And he's on penalties, and I just feel that irrespective of how United play, Bruno has been an output merchant in the past, and he just tends to find a way to just score points. He's just the ideal player for FPL. I won't say he's completely nailed in my draft, but I like his selection, so I doubt I go without him. Same with Eze and Trent. They've been there since the start. Haaland has come in, so basically that's been the difference, that I've basically swapped the structure. I don't have Salah, I have Haaland now. I've been fairly vocal about going with one. I don't think it's worth going with both, especially when you're just going to captain one every week. I don't think it's worth the sacrifices that you make across the rest of the squad. Saka is there primarily because I like his game week 1 and game week 3 fixture, and because I think that he is an ideal placeholder for Son in Game Week 5. I think I'll probably want Son in Game Week 5, and I want someone at that price point, which is why Saka plays that role to perfection. Apart from that, Pedro is there. I can possibly go with Armstrong, but I think I slightly prefer João Pedro. Isak is there. Andreas is the one which I guess is it's a bit of a shot in the dark, but if he's playing as the number 10 and potentially on penalties with those opening fixtures, I don't mind playing him week in, week out. At the back, I have Flecken simply because Brentford tend to concede plenty of low XG shots, and they concede plenty of shots from outside the box as well, which is sort of likely to work in Flecken's favor. Then there's Trent, who's always been there. I just think he has a very high ceiling. Porro is in the draft. I really like his rotation with Konza, as mentioned earlier. That just covers me really well, and I really like what I've seen of Porro in preseason. And then there's Saliba. So as of now, I think the picks that I'm not exactly sure about are the goalkeepers, Saliba, Andreas, and maybe Bruno and Pedro. But apart from that, the rest of the squad is fairly settled.
Yeah, CH nails it. I'm really enjoying to see so much diversity in teams this season. It does feel like that. Like, it does feel like there's not much of a template. We are always changing our teams. This will be it won't be a very different team, but I guess we'll see 3-4 changes probable by the deadline, but that's completely normal. We're 12 days out. Things will change. Who are the players?
Gianni, how many players do we have? Which are the players we have in common? Spill the beans.
We have Trent, Eze, Isak and Haaland, and Barco.
Yeah, we're 4 out of 11 basically.
Yeah,
right?
if we're going off the 11, yeah. And do you know what?
That's
only
decent.
player in your 11 that I think I might get. Or no, I don't think I will. But there's a chance from those 4. There's a chance I'd go Bruno, but I don't think I can reach him. So no, Calafiori's not an option, dude. Not at the moment. He's 6 mil. Go Gabriel or Saliba. Yeah. So yeah, we will only end up with 4 of the same players probably. Pretty cool.
Yeah, unless I change some of my picks, which could happen. But then again, I don't think I'll have the funds to go with Son or some of the picks that you have, Kulusevski, for example. I don't think I'm going to go with them personally.
Yeah, see, it's a way you have covered that Spurs attack by Porro. Yeah, I mean Porro's average position, guys. If you go off pre-season, he's the best looking defender in the game in terms of position maps. Like, you won't beat Porro's average position. However, you will beat his clean sheets. You won't get many, but maybe he doesn't need to. Dean, what's your take on Spurs defense?
Yeah, well, I know I need one, and so I stuck, as I'm sure you saw, Edozie in there just because it was 5, and it was kind of like a holder. But the more it's going in, I'm getting a bit jealous of the Porro stuff, and I'm like, well, where am I going to get another 0.5 from in my team? So yeah, it's something I'm probably going to have to address as we get a little bit closer and analyze. I was a bit hopeful that Spence might properly work his way in. There's been so much hype around Jed Spence in pre-season, how well he's doing. I'm like, go on, son, work your way into that team at 4.5 million. Go on, give me a new asset to consider. You never know, we might get there, but yeah, at the moment, I've got Edozie. I'm not sure I like it very much at the moment. So I need to watch a bit more. I found Tottenham difficult to track from being in America, to be honest, because all their games
They're in Asia.
They've been in Asia. So they've been in completely different time zone to me. I've caught little bits of highlights on YouTube and stuff, but haven't given them enough depth from analysing their games. Obviously, I'm on top of the transfer stuff, but the actual games have passed me by a little bit. Although
Kulu's been the one, man. Kulu, and
Bergval's getting like rave reviews. Yeah,
there's Spurs fans going like, start him over Maddison. Like, whoa, because Maddison's been off it. But I perhaps a little disrespectful to how good Maddison has been in a Spurs shirt. But yeah, clearly a good option. He's 4.5 million if he does earn a spot. Nice. Bakar, I like that. Goalkeepers, you're going 4.5. Who's the other guy?
The Brentford backup.
Yeah, so you've gone a 4 and a 4.5. So do you think you'll stick on that? Like, do you really need that 0.5 that you can't go Dean Henderson or Sanchez or Sells alongside Flecken?
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the goalkeepers, to be very honest. I want to be in a position where I can either go with the Henderson as the backup or go
Mm,
with Allison. These are the
mm.
two things that I'm considering. I like Allison a lot. Or maybe even Raya. Let's say I can go with Raya in goal and downgrade Saliba to a cheaper defender. Let's say if Gehi goes to Newcastle, that this draw would look really good with that.
Yeah.
Right? So these are
I
the
go
kind of
Lewis
things that
Hall.
can happen. And I'm sure the like something will come up. I know you're a huge fan of Lewis Hall, but I'm sure something will come up. And yeah, just the missing pieces, the final sort of uh, pieces of the jigsaw will sort themselves before the deadline.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. Sitting pretty like that very much. Final word on Eze before we see my team. He's not left your team. He feels nailed for you. I've seen your tweets.
He's
You
nailed
like,
if he stays.
yeah. Yeah.
It looks
Okay.
like he will. I mean, I think people are scared to pay 60 million up front for Eze. Like it's a good clause that Palace have put in place because they've totally protected themselves. It's
Yeah.
not like a 60 million plus 6 or 8, whatever it is, that can be paid over time. Paying 60 million up front for a player is a big punt. And
And FFP, right? That's got a.
yeah, well, I was thinking earlier on, like obviously Julian Alvarez is like leaving Man City as it stands right now, which I find
Oh,
quite surprising. Like he's going to
yeah.
go and join Atletico Madrid, and that's a really interesting transfer because to get out a Man City regular shows the fragility perhaps of that team at a time when things are starting to change. There's been so much talk about players leaving, and for one to actually be going is interesting.
You
But
think that happens, Dean? You think that move will happen?
yeah, I mean they're deep in talks now. Man City set their stall at 80 million. There's a sell-on clause that has to be played to River Plate, I think it is, that he came from. It's 5%, I think. So they need to get everything they can out of it. I can't see Atleti paying less than 70 million. But Alvarez wants the move. He
Yeah.
wants to go and play for
He
Atleti.
wants to be starting. And an
Yes.
Argentinian manager.
Yeah, exactly. So you look at that, and I was thinking, do you know what? If Alvarez is going, maybe they reinvest in Eze.
Yeah.
Maybe Eze comes into that rotation. I spoke to somebody today about it. He said, yeah, but they've just signed Savinho. They've got Oscar Bob coming through. McAtee's still there. They've got loads of players who can kind of back up Haaland. They've got Grealish. They've got Doku that need game time. If they need anything, it's probably another striker, to be honest with you, because you think when Haaland was missing, how many times Alvarez stepped forward in that central position, he was actually a really important player and became basically undroppable for a long stage of the season. So I'm kind of intrigued about what Man City might do if Alvarez goes and whether we are surprised and see them make a move for somebody who could play more centrally when Haaland isn't available.
Yeah, nice, interesting. And if KDB leaves even next season, having an Eze ahead of that move maybe works. Yeah, guys, I'm not sure if someone in the chat's just said they've tried to find that Meniz incident where he won the pen and didn't take it. They've only played Benfica preseason. I think it was a behind closed friendly game, and I'm pretty sure it was 6-1 against like a non. So just check that.
We beat Watford and we smashed Watford and QPR. I'm not going to say beat. I'm going to say smashed Watford and QPR in pre-season. So it'll be one of those matches. Yeah.
It was one of them. But yeah, and yeah, FPL Nima, thank you for joining, mate. And yeah, looking forward to seeing you at Fest, which is in London. If you want to join me and Nima at Fantasy Football Fest, then go check out fantasyff-fest.com.
Is it in San Diego?
Yeah, no, we don't have a US edition yet this year, but we will be in London Vauxhall with 400 FPLers for those that want to come and celebrate Game Week 1 deadline with us. In fact, I'm sure you boys will be streaming, but I won't be on Chasing Green Arrows that night. But I'm sure Bakar and Dean will be for the Game Week 1 deadline. We'll probably be doing a deadline stream, guys.
They will
stay
be,
tuned for that. Guys, I'll show you my team. We've got a couple of minutes to rattle through it. Oh, we've had a super chat. Eze Meniz, Havertz and Howard. Okay. There's a lot of questions going on there. I'm just going to say we'll talk about them. We'll talk about them in my team because I've got Havertz and I've got Eze, and I might go Muniz. So my big question on this team we can see here is: do I swap out a Harry Winks for a Kulusevski and then downgrade a Havertz to a Muniz? That is a move I'm looking at doing. I'm also looking at maybe reshuffling my pack at the back. When I say reshuffling the pack, I'd be bringing Lewis Hall in for Murillo 4.5 for 4.5, and I'd be swapping out Nick Pope and Bentley for 2 4.5s. Still covering Forest by going Sells instead of Murillo. So I'm still covering Newcastle and Forest. I'm just swapping around goalkeeper and defenders. So Murillo out for Hall, Pope out for Sells. That gives me then the option of going 2 4.5 keepers where I'd put Dean Henderson in. Henderson and Sells rotate well. Sells look like he's starting now. They've signed a 6.8 Brazilian keeper who was on the bench the other night, and it looked like they're putting out their first team. They have got one more friendly for us, so all eyes on that. But other than those moves, I'm kind of happy with the majority of my team. Havertz in a Chelsea shirt, I really like. I really like the look of that. Thanks, Curtis, for pointing that out.
Oh dear, if only, mate.
De Bruyne and Salah in Chelsea shirts as well. So I guess, yeah, I mean, Bakar, I'll come to you first. Havertz and Winks gives me a good option in my 11, covering the Arsenal attack, and then an enabler in Winks. Or I convert that to, say, Kulusevski and a Meniz, which gives me 8 good attackers with no obvious bench player every week. So it'd mean benching an Nkunku one week or a Meniz the next. Or maybe a Kulusevski one week when the fixtures turn a little harder. What's your take there? Go all out for an Arsenal attacker with an obvious bench player, or look at a Meniz-Kulu combo?
I mean, the first thing that sort of strikes me when I see this team is the fact that I think personally you overinvested in attack. I think some of the funds need to go in defense because a structure with a 7 million defender, 2 4.5 million defenders, and 2 4 million defenders it's just a bit too weak for defense. I think you need to take some funds out of attack straight away. Now, whether you do that through a Havertz downgrade or a Gordon downgrade is up to you, but I would advise a downgrade in attack somewhere.
But they all have such good fixture. I know they're average defenders from average teams. But when we rotate, and these 4 have been very carefully plucked out for rotation. So in the first 10, let's say I don't wildcard and I don't make any transfers, Harwood Bellis only plays 3 games for me, but they're 3 good home games. Barco plays 4 or 5 games.
Do Southampton ever have a good game?
Well, if they're at home against Ipswich, I might just go, yeah, do you know what? They've got a chance keeping a clean sheet. But yeah, it's not ideal and it's not optimal to have so many budgets. But I would argue Barco shouldn't be seen as a 4.0 defender. I think he'll play like a 4.5. Set pieces for Brighton at left back. Let's assume he's starting. And I guess. I mean, I don't see Murillo, see Lewis Hall because he's the one that's currently in my team. I changed it after I sent the screen grab. But yeah, I mean, you're right. 1 premium and 4 rotating 4.5s or lower does leave me a little short, but something has to give. The other option,
if Barco isn't playing by game week 3 or 4, if Barco isn't playing by game week 3 or 4, then the rotation is basically non-existent, right? And I think there is a risk of that. I think it's actually fairer to sort of view Barco as a let's say a 5th defender as opposed to a 4th defender, because in this draft he's a 4th defender. I think what you suggested earlier with taking some funds out of the goalkeeper and perhaps investing in defense would be better for you.
I mean, there is a world in which I go Meniz from Havertz. This is what my team looks like on my phone if I'm looking at it right now. Winks to Kulusevski and Gordon to, you're going to hate this one, guys, Martinelli. And that gives me an extra 0.5 in the back. Again, a bit like Kulusevski and Jota, I just see Martinelli as the guy that's going to start game week 1, maybe 2 and 3, and just bang, got a chance of banging as a differential. Dean, what's your take on those players? I know Martinelli's not nailed, but if he plays well, he keeps his spot. Same as Kulu and Jota, by the way. If they play well in the positions they're in game week 1, 2, they probably continue in the team.
Well, that's it. I mean, our views on these players can be shifted with one game. And Martinelli is somebody that plenty of us have had in the past in our teams, but obviously he just went off radar a bit towards the back end of last season. There's no reason why he shouldn't shift forward again to be a more key player for Arsenal this season. I think Arsenal are going to be great this season, and I'm trying to figure out how I address that with my team, because at the moment I haven't at all. But they're going to be strong, and Martinelli is going to be super motivated to make sure that he's in the picture. So I think that's interesting. I'm just trying to look up on goalkeepers what Aaron Ramsdale is currently
4.5. He's 4.5.
4.5. he's not staying at Arsenal. He's going to be a first choice goalkeeper for someone by the
Southampton.
if not by the start of the season, then by the end of the transfer window. And Newcastle are one of the teams that are still interested.
That would
in
be
him.
nice. Poor
So,
Nick Pope can't get in the England squad because of Ramsdale. Can't get in the Newcastle team because of him.
well, this is what could become interesting. I mean, there's 3 or 4 teams that waiting for Ramsdale. My personal feeling on Ramsdale is that no one's moved for him because they'd rather get him on loan. And Arsenal don't really want to do a loan, but they can't just leave Ramsdale sat on the bench for another season. So I'm kind of waiting for Ramsdale to make a move to see where he ends up and whether that becomes enticing, because I think it could be. And then, I mean, it'd give you a dilemma, wouldn't it, on Pope? But it also might sort that out if you could drop that down to Ramsdale.
Yeah, nice. Bakar, if Trent comes down to a Gvardiol or a Saliba, gives you another $1 million to spend on the back line, how bullish should we be on Trent?
I really like Trent. I mean, it's just the fact that he's so attacking. I think the only defender I might sort of consider swapping him out for is Robertson if it allowed me significant upgrade elsewhere. I think I really want to have at least one Liverpool defender though, and I think that's likely going to be Trent.
Yeah, my headline of watching Slot pre-season is Liverpool will be good. They'll probably score fewer goals. They'll probably keep more clean sheets. I just feel first season under Slot, they're going to be a little bit more compact. Not quite the rock and roll football we've seen. Guys, that's been awesome. We've run out of time. There's over 550 of you watching right now. There's 546 in the chat. My mistake. Which is awesome. We would love to stay and chat, but all good things must come to an end. There is, however, some very good content on this channel that you can go and watch right now. If you're just joining, go back and watch the last hour. If you're not and you want more CGA, we made some awesome pre-recorded content only a few days ago on this channel. Go check it out. Big Man did a video, so did Dean, so did I. And we've got loads more coming in the next 3 days, more pre-recorded content, all before Friday's live stream. We'll see you again on Friday lunchtime. We're doing Monday evenings, Friday lunchtimes. Guys, thank you so much for joining. On your way out, though, if you're new around here, and I know so many of you are, hit that subscribe button for us. We would love to get to 8K by the next show, and maybe that is possible with your help. Any last word from you guys? Dean, to you first.
Go and watch Fulham. Everybody go and watch Fulham right now.
Yeah, I'm going to do that straight away.
Nice. I'm going to go rip my team up and find some more money in the back line after the Big Man slated it. Guys, as always, thank you for watching. And he's been Dean, he's been Big Man. We'll be back on Friday. We'll see you then. We've all been chasing green arrows. See you later, chasers.